Chimaev's. Khamzat Chimaev. I think all those guys got what it takes to be champion. Do you think he's stronger than Khamzat?
Well, that's why they're going to have this fight in Chicago, UFC 319.
Welcome back to Boxy Hub, your go-to source for everything happening inside the cage. Today, we are diving into some powerful words from former UFC light heavyweight champion Rampage Jackson, who recently shared his thoughts on Khamzat Chimaev ahead of UFC 319. Rampage did not hold back when describing what makes Khamzat so special, and his predictions are enough to get fight fans buzzing. We are going to break down every part of this conversation step by step so you can understand exactly why Rampage believes Khamzat is destined for championship gold. From training room stories to comparisons with other fighters and his take on the upcoming challenge, we are covering it all. So make sure you stick around until the end, because this is going to be a detailed look at why Rampage thinks Khamzat will not just win, but dominate. And before we get started, do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our future updates from the world of combat sports. Rampage Jackson begins by describing Khamzat Chimaev in one of the simplest yet most impactful ways possible. He calls Khamzat an absolute beast and recalls how, in just a few seconds of watching him inside the gym, he witnessed something remarkable. Rampage talks about how Khamzat was murking people, which is slang for completely dominating opponents. And this gives us a very raw look into what training with or against him might be like. What makes this so telling is the fact that Rampage is a veteran of the sport who has seen countless fighters in every stage of their career. For someone of his experience to be impressed in just a few seconds means Khamzat's energy and skill level are immediately noticeable. Training room stories often reveal a side of a fighter that the public does not get to see. In the gym, there is no crowd and no lights, so the intimidation factor comes purely from skill and presence. Rampage's reactions suggest that Khamzat possesses that rare combination of speed, power, and aggression that instantly overwhelms whoever stands in front of him. Many fighters have to build their dominance over time in a fight, but Khamzat seems capable of establishing it instantly. This is a crucial insight into why Rampage sees him as championship material, because a fighter who can impose his game plan from the very first moment has a huge advantage in mixed martial arts. Rampage's description also hints at Khamzat's versatility. To murk people in a gym setting likely means he was handling multiple styles, whether wrestling exchanges, striking, or submissions, and doing so without hesitation. It is one thing to be good at one skill, but it is entirely different to be dominant everywhere, which is exactly the kind of threat that can carry someone to a UFC title.
He a beast, man. I saw him for a couple of seconds over there, man. He was murking people. He's a beast, bro.
When Schmo asks Rampage who Khamzat reminds him of, the answer is very telling. Rampage says Khamzat is just a different animal and does not really remind him of anyone else, although his work ethic reminds him of Michael Bisping. This tells us two things. First, Khamzat's fighting style and overall approach are so unique that Rampage cannot even draw a direct comparison to another fighter. That is rare because most fighters' styles have visible influences or resemblances to their predecessors or peers. Second, bringing up Michael Bisping when discussing work ethic is a huge compliment. Bisping was known for his relentless training, mental toughness, and ability to overcome adversity. He fought some of the best in the world, often on short notice, and still found a way to become UFC middleweight champion. If Khamzat's work ethic is on that level, it means he is willing to push himself beyond the point where most fighters would stop. That is a trait that often separates champions from contenders. Rampage's use of the phrase different animal also speaks volumes. In combat sports, this usually means a fighter has an edge in mentality, physicality, and instinct that is so sharp it feels almost unnatural to the average person. Fighters like that are unpredictable because they do not operate within the limits of conventional thinking. They find ways to impose themselves no matter what the situation is. When combined with an elite work ethic, that kind of mindset becomes incredibly dangerous for any opponent. Rampage is essentially saying that Khamzat not only has rare physical tools, but also the mental discipline and drive to make full use of them. This is a dangerous combination that explains why Rampage sees him as a future champion.
Chimaev remind you of, if anybody at all?
No, he don't. No, he's a different. But his work ethic reminds me of Michael Bisping, though.
Rampage continues by stating that Khamzat Chimaev has what it takes to be a champion easily. He emphasizes that Khamzat comes into the gym and trains like nobody else. This is an important observation because gym culture in mixed martial arts is competitive by nature. Fighters are constantly pushing each other to improve, and it is common to see even top-tier athletes struggle on certain days. For Rampage to say Khamzat stands out in that environment means his training intensity is on another level entirely. It is also important to remember that the gym is where fighters build the habits that show up in the cage. A fighter who consistently pushes themselves to the limit in training is better prepared to handle the pressure of a big fight. Rampage's statement that Khamzat could become champion easily suggests that it is not just about physical ability, but also about preparation and mindset. Many fighters have the skills to be champions, but without the right habits, they never reach that level. Khamzat's ability to train harder than everyone else indicates he has the discipline to keep evolving. In MMA, where the sport changes so quickly, this willingness to constantly improve is essential. Rampage is essentially pointing out that Khamzat's ceiling is incredibly high because he combines natural ability with the hardest possible work ethic. When a fighter has both, it often feels inevitable that they will reach the top. This is why Rampage sounds so confident in his prediction.
Khamzat Chimaev. I think all those guys got what it takes to be champion.
Rampage's reaction takes a lighter turn when he learns that Darren Till used to be a training partner of Khamzat. Schmo jokes that they were smash bros, and Rampage reacts with genuine surprise. While this moment has some humor, it also provides insight into Khamzat's training environment. Training with someone like Darren Till, a skilled striker with high-level UFC experience, would force Khamzat to constantly refine his game. High-level sparring partners are invaluable because they can replicate fight scenarios in the gym that are close to what an athlete will face in the cage. Rampage's surprise suggests that he may not have realized the extent of Khamzat's preparation or the kind of competition he faces on a daily basis in training. This also speaks to the variety and quality of Khamzat's skill development. Working with different styles helps a fighter adapt quickly in fights, and someone like Darren Till would provide a unique challenge in terms of range control, striking technique, and fight IQ. The Smash Bros comment, although playful, captures the energy of two fighters pushing each other hard in training. It implies that their sessions were intense, competitive, and possibly very physical, which is exactly the kind of preparation that sharpens a fighter's mental and physical edge. Rampage's reaction reinforces the idea that Khamzat's development is not accidental. He is putting himself in situations that demand the best from him, and this is another reason why Rampage views him as a strong favorite to claim the UFC 319 championship.
Darren Till, I know he the man out there in the UK and everything, but
Former training partner of Khamzat Chimaev.
no way.
Smash Bros. He's one half of the Smash Bros.
What do you mean, they smash, bro?
They're Smash Bros. You gotta ask Khamzat about being a Smash Bro.
I don't believe Khamzat.
Smash Bro.
They smash bros?
In this moment, Schmo shifts the focus to Dricus du Plessis, asking Rampage Jackson for his thoughts on the current middleweight champion. Schmo points out that Dricus is a big man and quite strong. This detail is important because it sets the stage for a potential clash in physicality when discussing his upcoming fight with Khamzat Chimaev. Strength in MMA is often discussed as a major asset, and in Dricus's case, it is one of the first traits that observers notice. Rampage listens and processes this information with interest, which suggests he understands the challenge Dricus presents. When you hear that a fighter is big and strong, it typically means they can physically impose themselves in clinch situations, wrestling exchanges, and even when absorbing strikes. However, Rampage also knows that size and raw strength alone are not enough to determine the outcome of a fight. The real question becomes whether that strength can be applied effectively against someone like Khamzat, who has a combination of elite wrestling, relentless pressure, and fight-ending instincts. Rampage's reaction indicates that while he acknowledges Dricus's physicality, he sees it as just one part of a much bigger picture. He understands that in MMA, attributes like timing, positioning, and fight IQ can neutralize raw power. This section of the conversation also sets up a key dynamic in the fight buildup, the battle between perceived physical dominance and all-around skill. By highlighting Dricus's size and strength, Schmo provides the contrast that makes Rampage's upcoming points about Khamzat's abilities even more impactful. It is as if Schmo is offering the best argument for why Dricus could win, and Rampage is preparing to counter it with his own perspective on why Khamzat still has the edge.
Of Dricus du Plessis, though, that guy's a beefy man, middleweight.
I never seen him in person, but I heard he do.
He's a big dude. He's strong, too.
For real? Is he really strong?
Yeah.
Rampage immediately flips the narrative by posing a direct question. Is Dricus stronger than Khamzat? This is where the conversation sharpens because it forces the audience to think critically about how strength is measured in a fight context. Schmo responds that this is exactly why the UFC booked this fight for UFC 319 in Chicago, suggesting that the answer will be decided inside the octagon. This exchange captures the essence of high-level MMA matchmaking, pitting two fighters against each other who each bring unique advantages to see which one can impose their will. Rampage's question is strategic because it highlights the possibility that Khamzat may actually match or even surpass Dricus's physical strength, something that is often overlooked when people focus on Khamzat's wrestling or cardio. It is important to note that strength in MMA is not just about lifting weight in the gym. It is about functional strength, the ability to control an opponent's body under the unpredictable conditions of a fight. Rampage has been in enough battles to know that a fighter who appears strong in static situations might not feel the same when someone is actively resisting with skill and technique. The implication here is that Khamzat's strength might be more fight-specific, allowing him to dominate in grappling exchanges and positional battles even against someone who is physically imposing. By bringing this up, Rampage adds another layer to why he believes Khamzat will prevail. It is not just about endurance, aggression, or skill. It is also about being able to meet an opponent's supposed greatest strength and turn it into a non-factor.
Do you think he's stronger than Khamzat?
Well, that's why they're going to have this fight in Chicago, UFC 319.
Rampage closes his breakdown with an important point drawn from his own career. He says that being stronger does not necessarily mean being better, referencing his fight with Kevin Randleman. In that bout, Randleman was physically stronger than Rampage, yet Rampage still found a way to win. This example brings decades of fighting wisdom into the conversation because it is a direct reminder that MMA is a multi-dimensional sport. Strength can give a fighter advantages in certain scenarios, but fights are rarely decided by one attribute alone. Rampage's personal experience serves as a cautionary tale for those who might think Dricus's strength will automatically translate into victory over Khamzat. Technique, conditioning, mental toughness, and the ability to adapt under pressure often outweigh raw physicality. Rampage's point also applies specifically to Khamzat, who has shown throughout his career that he can adapt to different opponents and find ways to win regardless of their physical tools. He is not just a fighter who relies on brute force. He uses positioning, timing, and relentless pressure to break opponents down. Rampage's message is that even if Dricus enters the octagon with a strength advantage, Khamzat has the skills to turn that into an irrelevant factor. This statement reinforces everything Rampage has been building up to throughout the conversation. The idea that Khamzat is not just equipped to win, but to win against any style or physical attribute an opponent might bring.
It's somebody stronger than you that better than you, because I fought Kevin Randleman, RIP to the legend, but I end up beating him. So you could beat people that's stronger than you.
When you put all of Rampage Jackson's comments together, a clear picture emerges. He sees Khamzat Chimaev as a once-in-a-generation talent who combines unmatched work ethic with the kind of natural fighting ability that instantly overwhelms opponents. From the moment Rampage first saw him in the gym, he knew Khamzat was something special. His uniqueness as a fighter, his championship-level preparation, his high-quality training environment, and his ability to adapt to any opponent all led Rampage to confidently predict that Khamzat will become the UFC 319 champion. Even when faced with an opponent like Dricus du Plessis, whose size and strength are undeniable, Rampage believes Khamzat's all-around skill set will make the difference. The lessons from Rampage's own career serve as the perfect reminder that in MMA, the most complete fighter usually wins. And in Rampage's eyes, that fighter is Khamzat Chimaev.